Assalamu alaikum, guys. This is Dr. Nida Masroor. Today, we are going to discuss a new topic that is understanding and defining the research methodology. First of all, we need to understand what is research methodology all about, and we also need to understand what is the objective of studying research methodology. Uh, Keep this thing in mind that what is the purpose of research? Research is meant to be conducted in order to assist in policy making. For example, that is whatever policies we design, we used to design those policies on the basis of some research conducted beforehand. And the policies that are designed without going through any kind of researches, without going through the results that are offered by any kind of relevant researches, those kind of policies are subject to failure. Whether the policies be any kind of, they're meant to be applicable in institutions, educational institutions, the road traffic policies, the laws, taxation policies, whatever. Every policy that is applicable in any scenario, especially in, by the government, by the higher authorities, or in an organization, all those policies has to be made on the basis of results that are offered by some researches that are conducted beforehand. And what are the kind of results that are offered by those results that are offered by those researches? Those researches like provide you an insight about the application of the similar policies that were applied in the past. Moreover, they also help you understand the pros and cons of the prospective policies that are offered to be applied. One more thing we need to understand, that the subject of research methodology, that does not give you an idea about what to be researched. Rather, it provides you an insight how to be researched. The methodology gives you an idea how to perform that particular research, how to conduct that particular research in order to get the right results. Although you always get some kind of results whenever you conduct a research, but whether the results are right or wrong, that is not necessary that it's correct. So this is one thing we need to establish, this particular the fact that what is the objective of research. First, the research is provides you an assistance in order to make right policies that are for the benefit of and the welfare of humans, rather than the policies that has negative effects on the welfare of people. Second thing, another fact we have established, that the objective of this particular subject, the research methodology, is not to give you an idea about what research, what should be the topic of research. Rather, it gives you an idea how to conduct the particular research. It offers you a different variety of technical tools that help you conduct the right, that help you apply the right way to gather that data, to analyze that data, and to make the decisions based on those gathered results. Now, in order to do that thing, we need to go ahead with different kind of researches that are being offered. There are different kind of researches that are categorized by different authors. One thing we need to understand that these categories may vary. Certain authors have categorized the same research types in different categories based on their criteria or assumptions. What we are going to study, we have followed this particular categorization module that categorize all kind of researches on the basis of application, the objective of the research, and the type of information sought. On the basis of application, the researches can be divided into two main categories, the pure research and the applied research. Pure research help you establish the theories in the academic perspective, especially the theories, the foundation, that is an in-depth analysis of certain phenomena. Whereas applied researches refer towards those researches that are applicable in the industries that have empirical importance, that are conducted in certain scenarios in practical world. Moving on towards the next category, that is the categorization on the basis of the objectives. There are four main categories: exploratory, descriptive, correlation, and explanatory. Exploratory research refers towards those kind of researches where you get to follow the inductive approach, where you used to elaborate the phenomena. As we already know that there are two approaches to conduct a research: the inductive approach and the deductive approach. In the deductive approach, we used to follow the phenomena, like we used to narrow down the researches from broader perspective towards focused approach. Whereas in case of inductive method, we used to identify a phenomena and we used to elaborate that phenomena and check out its application or applicability in different scenarios. And we try to find out all the possible scenarios that are related to them. For example, in case if I want to study the factors that have the positive effect on the economy of a country, or the factors that used to hinder the economic growth of a country. In that case, I will gradually narrow down my options and I'll try to be focused on certain scenario in order to conduct a proper research that will help me define proper policies, proper strategies that are more beneficial for the people. Whereas the researches that are more like elaborated, that have multiple directions, and they're not much focused, they have limited potential of assistance in devising right policies. In case of inductive approach, these kind of researches are applied in those scenarios where you come up with a new phenomena. We are unable to establish the relation between different kind of variables. For example, as the world has witnessed the COVID scenario, and COVID was a new phenomena in the beginning and the new scenario in the beginning. And initially, a lot of researches were conducted in order to understand the phenomena. We check out the medical perspective, the legal perspective, the economic perspective, and so many other dimensions that were related to the same scenario. The socioeconomic, social perspective of the same phenomena. So in those kind of situations, we used to conduct exploratory research where the variables are not identified, especially where you are not provided the variety of variables and you are unable to establish the relation among them. In case of, now we narrow down towards other kind of researches, the descriptive research, the correlation, and explanatory. The descriptive research, as the word is derived from the description, it helps you understand a phenomena and helps you provide the description of certain phenomena. For example, as I've already given you example, that in case if I want to study um, the factors that have a major contribution in the economic growth of a country, and I'll come up with economic growth will be the dependent variable, and I'll come up with a lot of variables, the independent ones, that have the positive effect on that particular dependent variable. So in these kind of researches, we used to follow the descriptive research methods, and these research methodologies and these research methods provide you a list of series, provide you a complete roadmap to help you in conducting your kind of research. So in case if you have a single variable, single dependent variable, and you need to identify multiple independent variables, or in case if you have an independent single variable and you need to identify the after effects of that particular variable on certain scenario, you need to follow the descriptive research method. And it's also, this particular research method is also considered as the hypothesis development research, because initially the first step toward conducting the research is to identify as many variables, the potential variables that has either the effect or not. So once you come up with those variables, you will move on towards other categories like kind of correlation research or explanatory research. And descriptive research, you will come up with different kind of variables, whether they have a relation with it or not. In correlation research, out of all those variables that were previously identified by in different researches, by descriptive studies about the established relation of two variables, in correlation, we get to know the relation, nature of relation of that research, whether there is a significant relation, where there is an insignificant relation, where there is a positive relation, where there is a negative relation, or the direct or indirect relation. Keep this thing in mind, that these are the similar scenarios that help you devise so many academic theories in the past, whether you identify the phenomena of direct and indirect proportions. All those phenomena are established on the basis of the researches conducted in the past. Whether in economics, you talk about law of supply, law of demand, where there comes a direct relation, where there comes an indirect relation. All these things are based on past researches that were previously conducted by different researchers. Further elaborated form of that, the researches, that is the explanatory research. In that particular category, you move ahead with the previous results. Like, for instance, in case of descriptive research, if you have identified variables, and in case of correlation research, you have come up with a different kind of you have come up with the relation, whether there is a positive relation, where there is a negative relation, or where there is no relation. Moving on towards explanatory research, you come up with the level of relation that exists between certain variables. The regression methods or different tools are used in order to understand the appropriate relation, the extent to which an independent variable has an effect on the dependent one. In graphical representation, it helps you identify the slope that exist between variable X and variable Y. Third kind of category, that is the third kind of category of researches, types of researches, if the same researches are categorized on the basis of the type of information sought, they are categorized in two main categories, that is the quantitative research and qualitative research. As the name implies itself, quantitative researches are those kind of researches where you get to seek the quantitative data based on numbers, numerical data, whereas in qualitative data, qualitative research, you get to make decisions on the basis of non-numeric data. One thing we need to understand that obviously qualitative studies have their own importance and quantitative have their own benefits. Quantitative researches, they actually provide you more concrete results based on statistics, where there will be no more or less or about or approximate kind of thing. Rather, you specify the numbers. For example, if I'm saying that agriculture is one of the major sectors of Pakistan, now whether that is supported by some quantitative data, or if I say agriculture has, let's say, 60 to 70% contribution in the economic growth of the country. No, that helps you that helps in establishing the concreteness and credibility of your data. But at times it happens that when the statistical data is not available, and at times it happens the nature of data is qualitative, and specifically where you are going to study the behavior, the opinions, and the level of impact, attitudes. So in those kind of studies, you used to follow the qualitative research methods, because the nature of data is qualitative. Although we try to quantify the things by using certain tools, however, the research will be considered as the qualitative research. Now, the next thing that we are going to study, that is the comparison of qualitative versus quantitative research based on the purpose. As we have already discussed, the purpose of research is different in both the cases. In case of qualitative researches, we used to discover the ideas. Specifically, qualitative researches are very much important in policy making. In scenarios, we're used to study the behaviors, the patterns, and you're used to evaluate the ideas, because there is no hard and fast hard and fast rule for evaluating a qualitative idea. So common purpose, that is in qualitative research, that is discover ideas with general research objects, whereas in case of quantitative research, there is specific hypothesis testing with quantifiable results in line. Approaches are different in qualitative based on the nature of data. They use more are the observation and interpretation and interviews, whereas in case of quantitative researches, we use to measure the data, we use to test the data. And qualitative researches and unstructured and free-form kind of data, whereas in data quantitative researches, we have structured response categories provided. And samples are different. Samples are different, obviously, on the basis of the nature of data. It's keep this thing in mind that qualitative research is comparatively a bit difficult to conduct, and we can only work with limited samples. The greater the number of samples, the methodology, the tools that are usually followed in qualitative researches are observational studies, focus group approaches, the interviews, and in those kind of scenarios, it's not easy for a researcher to go ahead with bigger sample sizes. Whereas in case of quantitative studies, you can go ahead with as many sample size that is appropriate and properly reflects the population. Researcher independence is, in case of qualitative researches, obviously, the researcher has to be actively engaged and they have to be involved with the participants. Whereas in case of quantitative researches, that also helps you identify the research onion process, that where the researcher is actively involved, intimately involved or not. Whereas in case of quantitative researches, it can either be based on primary, secondary data, obviously. So no, can be, not always, but it can be done this way. Researcher and uninvolved, observer results are objective. Some other categories, the same way, where what's the difference between the definitions of both the things, qualitative versus quantitative, and what are the methods that are being followed in both the kind of researches, the search terms, the data kind of idea. In qualitative researches, we have ideas, we have words, interviews based on words and everything. Whereas in case of quantitative, obviously, we have numeric data, whether that be the economic indicators, whether that be the criminal ratios, mortality rates, birth rates, something like that. Some other, now, although that is mentioned over here, that is the type of qualitative research methods, it rather more elaborate the tools that are used in qualitative research methods. That is, the qualitative research methods are usually conducted with the help of interviews, the focus group interviews, the surveys, observations, experimental methods. So there are different kind of ways to gather data in qualitative researches. And those are obviously, as you can see, they are not only difficult to gather, also costly as compared to the quantitative researches. Same, again, case studies, again, different methods. Ethnographic studies are there, where you used to study the cultures and you go ahead with the opinions based on different academic theories and all those. Now, moving on towards the practical aspect of the research. This is a research process, that how are we going to start our research? The first step, that is identification of the problem and or the opportunity. Most of the times we used to identify the problem in order to conduct a research. And it's often a very difficult step for most of the people, those who do not have a critical eye. The problem, obviously, as we have already discussed earlier, that the objective of research is to assist in policy making. And the policies that are devised on the basis of the results that are gathered by different researches, that are more meaningful, that are more beneficial, and that are obviously, as you have already gone through the pros and cons of all those policies, so they will sustain. You will not have to revise those policies based on their failure. Because in case if the policies are not pre-tested, pre-analyzed, usually they have negative outcomes, and you used to revise those policies after a certain period of time. That result in waste of time, the waste of resources and everything. So in a case of defining the policies, policies uh, can be any kind of, whether you're defining the traffic laws, whether you're defining the taxation policies, whether you're defining the laws, the rules and regulation in academic institutions and PEMRA, in kind of PTA, banking sector, every place where you're going to devise and implement any strategy, it's always good to go ahead with a research beforehand. The developed organization, they always have the research and development cell that used to analyze, conduct the researches for them. And on the basis of those researches, they get to define the policies and the future prospects of their organization. Whereas unfortunately, in the underdeveloped countries, or the less developed organization, that due to lack of resources, the capital resources, they used to skip the R&D, research and development cells. And that is the main reason the policies are often subject to failure. So first of all, we need to identify the problem. Identify the problem can be anything. Problem can be anything, any scenario, any occurrence, any incident, any occurrence, any incident, any happening, whatever that creates a hindrance, that is a problem. Whether that is the traffic blockages or the students' lack of literacy, or for example, if we go through further more topics, if I want to understand the reason behind non-interest in higher education in Pakistan, or if we say, if I want to understand the thing that despite being free education in government schools, why people usually they do not enroll their children. So we need to conduct the research in order to better understand the phenomena. Moving on, after identifying the problem, we need to go ahead with the next step, that is formulation of concepts and propositions. The formulation of concepts and propositions involve identification of variables. As we have already discussed, there are two approaches to conducting research: the deductive approach and the inductive approach. In this particular step, we understand whether to narrow down the research, which particular method to follow, whether be the qualitative, whether be the quantitative, whether there be the descriptive research, the correlation, or the explanatory or exploratory. What is the right method to be followed? And what are the variables involved? The third step involves a statement of hypothesis. As you can see that in the second and third step, they are specifically highlighted as the part of descriptive research. Statement of hypothesis. The statement of hypothesis, we are going to understand in the next step, that is what this statement is all about. This hypothesis is basically an assumption that helps you establish a relation between two variables, and that needs to be verified with the help of the research results. The fourth step will be design of research. Now we are elaborating the thing. From descriptive research, we are moving on towards other categories, the correlation and further. Design of research to test the hypothesis. Then next, which particular design is going to be followed, what will be the sampling procedure, whether it be the qualitative data, whether it be the quantitative data, which particular tools are going to be used. So all these things are specifically designed in this particular fourth step. Next is the acquisition and gathering of meaningful empirical data. Based on the methodology that is being designed in the earlier step, we used to gather the data, whether that data is gathered through secondary data, published articles, statistical data, or are we going to gather the data with the help of interviews, questionnaires, surveys, observations? So this step entails this thing. Next is the analysis and evaluation of the particular data. Analysis and evaluation includes the statistical analysis. There are different softwares that are provided with the growth and with the advancement in research. Obviously, the whole world has gathered, have identified the importance of research, and that has given more value in recent days as compared to the past, because that help you define more concrete policies as compared to the ones that were in the past where they are more subject to failure. So that is always based on the results that are offered by statistical softwares that help you understand. There are so many softwares, including SPSS, EBUs, and MOS and PLS, that help you establish the relation, understand the relation, the nature of variables, if their effect on each other. So you would be able to get more concrete results, and that help you devise more accurate policies in the future. The world has gone so much advanced, like nowadays, you realize beforehand whether you are going to encounter an earthquake, the storm, the weather changes, the global warming phenomena, and based on those change in scenarios, you can easily devise policies in advance to the encounter of those factors, with those factors. The last is the proposal of solution for the problem of how to explore the thing and the future prospects as well. That, as we have already established in the beginning, that the core objective of research is to assist in policy making. Keep this thing in mind, that research is a costly process, and obviously that cost is incurred keeping in mind the benefit of those investment. That is considered an investment, and that investment should provide you that kind of outcome that will be beneficial in the future. As we have discussed earlier, that we are going to go ahead with the hypothesis. And hypothesis, what is hypothesis? That is a tentative statement or explanation that proposes a possible relationship between variables and is subject to testing and verification. So whenever we are going to start a research, after gathering, after identifying the problem statement, after going through the research gap and moving on towards gathering the literature review, the first thing we need to do is to develop an assumption, a statement, a declarative statement. Now, that is another art that we need to understand, that how the hypothesis statements are being made. That is a declarative statement and affirmative sentences, clear cut, no interrogative kind of thing, nothing like that. No ambiguity should be there. A statement that clearly established, that clearly declares the relation between two variables, whether variable A has a significant effect on variable B, or there exists a relation between A and B, or variable A along with variable B has a significant effect on variable C. So we have to be clear. There is no maybe or might be, nothing like that. Overview, okay, it's a testable prediction that seeks assumptions, that seeks to explain a phenomena or make a statement about the relationship. So it is formulated based on prior knowledge, obviously, as we have discussed earlier, based on the literature review that you have gathered for conducting your research. Observations or theories, hypotheses serve as starting point for scientific investigation, and the validity is assessed through empirical evidences. And there are different kind of hypotheses, the null hypothesis there, the original hypothesis, null hypothesis, and alternative hypothesis. Where hypothesis is a statement that helps you establish the relation between two variables. Null hypothesis, the one that suggests no significant relationship or effect between variables, whereas alternative hypothesis is the alternative of the original one. If H1 is a statement that helps establish the relation